My species has always dreamed that we are not alone in the universe. For centuries, we have written stories about what it would be like to contact intelligent creatures totally different from us. Many scientists have said it is mathematically impossible that we were the only life, but the public still today believes that aliens are little more than the work of fiction. But just outside my tent, I could see evidence of them. I was brought from my homeworld, Jackie, to a small moon called Munlili nearly 3 years ago. I am a top-notch archaeologist. Not to brag, but I am a common name in most nest holes. When the Agency for Safety set up this mission, there was a concern over how my removal from public life would be handled. The agency even floated the idea of faking my death. I became famous on Jackie by being a voice of reason in an increasingly unreasonable world. I used various social networking sites to dispel misinformation on ancient ruins, but I had several 12 years of actual field research to back up my credibility. Because of all this, I told the agency that I would not put up with misinformation about my absence from public life. I was contracted by the agency to look for every reasonable explanation for the Monlili pyramids. They are massive structures. Each is nearly 1.434 macro measurements squared at its base, and 4.504 macro measurements tall. That means the height is exactly equal to one side times the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. Another oddity is that the pyramids are spaced out from each other according to Nampa's sequence in a ratio of 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. After these discoveries, the first explorers began to theorize they were more than geologic in origin. They did seem unusual. Monlili, like Jackie, is a yellow world, filled with all types of plants, though notably lacking any animal life. The pyramids stand out against the landscape as they are made out of a dense, black substance that we have so far been unable to identify. Monlili itself is very strange. It is a rather large moon of the gas giant Ulysses. Our initial flybys of the moon in the early parts of this 120 years show that it was a lush world. But it was only when the first explorers landed that we began to notice strange coincidences between Monlili and Jackie. In fact, they seem to be almost identical in atmospheric composition. There have even been unsubstantiated claims by some researchers that the tops of some of the pyramids open and release gases into the atmosphere. Like I said, I was contracted to find out if these strange things were the result of some higher intelligence, or if there was another explanation. I was already quite convinced that it was the former before the opening. I was sitting in my tent one day when suddenly there was a loud commotion outside. I rushed outside to see what was going on with my own 6 eyes. The moment I stepped into the strangely familiar air, a loud screeching noise boomed its way across the field and into the hearing hole at the base of my neck. I covered it with my tentacles, but that only muffled the noise. When it stopped, a few micromeasures later, I glanced up at the pyramid. There was a bright white light emanating from one of the faces. It appeared like a door to heaven. The camp security detail had to stop my co-workers and I from rushing into the opening. When things settled, an entry expedition team was put together. Myself and another Jackie Chan, named Ante, were charged as the heads of the team. The camp supervisor insisted that we put on protective suits, thick gloves on the end of both tentacles that limited the movement of my 12 claws. Ante and I suddenly agreed that we would likely ditch these once inside the structure. We walked through the hastily set up security perimeter. The light was so bright we couldn't see a thing past it. I turned to my team and said, "See you on the other side." It felt odd, like moving through water but much thicker. Maybe more like moving through sweet jam from a suey bush. I was still totally blinded by the light. It felt like I swam through this for medium measures, but really it couldn't have been more than a click of a claw. Finally, I broke through the fluid. It was dark inside the pyramid. My front eyes began to adjust first, and suddenly I was looking at a massive hallway. The ceiling was nearly 3 times my height, and vaulted into a triangle at the top. There were many strange symbols along the walls that seemed to stretch out forever. I turned to my side and saw what looked like a large door. It was covered in symbols. Most were unfamiliar to me, One, though, did make sense. It was a circle. There was a straight line in the middle of it. Below that was an empty circle with what appeared to be a poorly drawn half circle, as well as a line that had another half circle pointed the opposite way, with a line on one side. We would later learn that these were the human English letters, C and D. Ante suddenly burst through the fluid, gasping for air. After catching his breath, he approached the same door that I stood in front of. "What do you think it means?" I asked. "Well," he said, "clearly it is some kind of test. I hate to say it, but I think your primary mission here has been solved. These were definitely built by aliens." "No argument here," I said. "Though on my official report I will only conclude that there was intelligent design involved." At that point, we still didn't know the full story the humans had waiting for us. "Look," he said, "there are more symbols here." He pointed just off to the side of the door. By this time, the other members of our team were passing into the hallway. I instructed them to begin taking photographs and videos of the hallway, and the symbols it contained. Ante and I kept trying to figure out the first door. The symbols were in a line from left to right. It was repeating groups. First 1 square, then 2, then 3, all the way up to 10. Odd, I thought. "Maybe it has something to do with the structure itself," Ante said. Click. I thought about it for a moment. Wait, what if it's the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter? That's an infinitely repeating number, though. True, but maybe the aliens just want us to round. Could be, Ante said. It's strange that the last two numbers aren't included. Maybe the aliens base their number system in 10 instead of 12. I pushed the picture of the 3 squares. Suddenly, the door opened. Instead of more blinding light, I was met with a small room filled with alien technology. I called the team over to focus on this room. There were tools to manipulate with our hands. In fact, there seemed to be versions for every type of hand imaginable, and then some. There were devices that played audio messages at different frequencies, and others that played videos in a scheme of colours. It took nearly 5 months to get even a basic understanding of that first room. Ante and his other translators were able to piece together the fundamentals of human language. At first we thought that they were a monolinguistic species like ourselves, but through other rooms this was corrected. That first room, though, taught us about human mathematics. Just as Ante had predicted, it was a strange 10-based system, and what we now know as human English. We learned that humans separated their words into verbs and nouns, and other strange parts of speech. This knowledge allowed us to read the symbols of the other doors. Each had a riddle to solve. Nampar's sequence was common. So was Zoldyck's solution to the sides of a 90-degree triangle. As we advanced in the hallway, the problems got more and more complex. Within 2 years, we had completed the first pyramid. Once the last door was open, the next pyramid in Nampar's sequence opened. By the time we reached the 4th pyramid, we were having to rework our understanding of microphysics based on information given in the previous structures. I ignored the whispered conversations I heard about Agency Jakijans, using this new knowledge for weapons. That 5th pyramid is where we were told about the history of humankind. They taught us about their histories and their fictions. They seemed to have similar mythologies to us as well, even naming their planets after their deities like we had. They told us that their star system only had 1 star, unlike our own binary system. After advancing further, by this point the strongest mathematical minds were being contracted to make any sense of the humans' advanced riddles. We were told that our species, in fact our entire genetic lineage, was actually made up of Earth's microlife. The humans had chosen our world Jackie. They called it Planet 4 in their writings, as it is the 4th from our main star because of its similar size to their home world. They also thought it was important to have a massive gas giant like Muisuli to serve as a gravity well for asteroids. They told us that a huge asteroid had hit their home world millions of years before they evolved, killing much of the life that existed at the time. The humans said that they did not want to be treated as deities or parents, that we were their younger siblings if anything. They also told us that they would have no idea we had reached the pyramids or what we were like. They said they were excited to find out, though. This was when the agency began to question why humans had seeded our planet in the first place. Apparently, someone in the agency was really freaked out by this question and leaked it to the public. By this point in the mission, the public knew that the pyramids were of alien origin, but most of the specifics were protected information. Wild conspiracy theories abounded. Some politicians even claimed, without any evidence, that the humans were trying to mold us into a slave race and that we needed to start thinking defensively. That was when the agency began to remember why they hired me. I became a spokes-jackajan for the agency. The humans had given no sign of any malcontent. In fact, they were helping us discover secrets about microphysics. They were giving us helpful technologies for faster-than-light communication and clean energy production. Unfortunately, some Ikajan figured out how to use that clean energy material to make a bomb and blew up an agency building. Nearly 36,000 Jackijans died. After that, the agency became much more secretive again. Many people were sent back to Jackie in order to prevent further information leaks. There were riots and more Jackijans died. Some clans even had revolutions that sought to reopen access to the information. The agency dealt with those rebels in less than Jackijan ways. This severely slowed down the progress in the hallways. It was another 5 years before we were able to open the next and final pyramid. The problems within were much harder. They required many groups of specialized teams. Chemists, geologists, astronomers all had to be brought in. There were even some doors that required musicians to be brought to Munlili to construct and play human instruments. The agency rotated all of these teams in and out, and kept access to new information to a minimum. Finally, we were at the second to last door. Inside was a simple message, repeated in all of the human languages we had been taught. You must work together. To open the next door, a recording with an instant relay to your homeworld must be set up. This recording must be available to all intelligent creatures on your world. Orient this recording towards the last door, so that all may see what is beyond. Once these conditions are met, the last door will open.